Lawlessness in Britain is on the rise, from shoplifting in our stores and supermarkets by organised gangs to criminals robbing hard-working people of their trade tools in broad daylight. So why is it getting worse, and what's being done to stop it? I'm Geraint Vincent, and this is what you need to know. Welcome. I'm joined by Antoine Allen. Antoine, you've actually done two investigations here, haven't you? One into tools theft and the other into the surge in shoplifting. Let's start with the shoplifting. And I think the first thing that came across when I watched the film was that shoplifting is very much no longer a crime which you associate with opportunistic individuals. It's very much an organised activity now, right?
It's organised. It's people who want to make a lot of money in what they assume is low risk, hence why they're targeting the high street. Now, there's essentially three types of shoplifters. You've got your person who's addicted to some kind of substance abuse. You've got your organised criminals, and then you have opportunists. That could be somebody who, I don't know, picks up 5 donuts and only pays for 4. But when it comes to organised crime, they're there to make money, as much money as they can, and not be caught. Now, the organised criminals, they actually take up a big proportion of the stats we're talking about, because what they do is, it's not one person goes into Greggs or Sainsbury's. They go into those places multiple times across the country. So a prime example is, essentially, a few years ago, there's a thing called Operation Opal, which is funded by Pegasus. So Pegasus is a joint operation between the retailers and the government to put money together to help the police get on top of shoplifting. Now, Opal started, and they looked at organised crime from a holistic view of the whole country. So there was one gang in Surrey that the Surrey police had believed had stolen £200,000 worth of goods, which is a lot. But through Operation Opal, they found that it was 2 million across the country. They've interacted with 30 out of the 43 police forces in England and Wales. So being able to kind of look at it like a spider's net and draw those dots together through Opal, we're able to see that it's organised. It's not just people walking in and getting a sweet from Greggs. It's more than that, because the more you can steal, the more you can sell, the more money you can make. And organised crime is all about making money as easy as they can.
And the other reality of this, Antoine, which I know you found out about, was the extent to which people who work in shops, people who work in retail, security guards who've been employed specially to combat shoplifters, really are at some personal risk now, aren't they?
Yeah. When it comes to any criminal, nobody wants to be caught, whether it's substance abuse or it's organised gangs. So if you're on the front line, your job is to apprehend shoplifters, to stop them, to slow them down, to take pictures, whatever it is, you become a target yourself. So we wanted to speak to security guards, to get their stories, to hear directly from them. I think the nature of their business meant they didn't want to talk, because you want to keep that bravado, you want to keep that sense of kind of being a superhero to an extent. But we managed to find someone who was brave enough to talk about the threats that he'd gone through and the fear that he had for his own life. Sunday, I heard someone pulled a knife on you.
Yes, boss. Absolutely, yes, sir.
Were you afraid for your life?
Yeah, I'm afraid for my life.
How big was the knife?
The guy was so big, I think like 2 inches. It's like this. The guy went, "Come here, I'll choke you, man. You still, he's trying on me." So
You've been doing this for 10 years.
yeah, 10 years, yeah.
Do you think the incidents are getting worse?
The one I saw with the knife, I think that is the worst in my life. And the guy that bite me also,
You've been bitten?
yeah, he bite my finger. He stole, and he still bite my finger.
So they come in, they pick the items that they
pick
want,
a lot of
steal it,
yeah.
and then they go and sell it.
Yeah, and sell it.
I think when it comes to a story like this, you can quite easily focus on the stats. Every year, shoplifting goes up. I wanted to go a little bit deeper to find the people and the stories, and also where these goods are being sold. And yeah, we went to a boot sale, but also it's other shops that are selling stolen goods. And that's what surprised me as well, the sheer blazing-ness of it, where it was a case where we were on a police raid and they'll look for an invisible mark the same way with tools, but it wasn't even needing that deep an investigation. We were in one shop, they were literally selling Waitrose bottles, they had Marks and Spencer's items, and because someone had shoplifted, they'd bought it and they were trying to sell it on.
Oh, it's just extraordinary, isn't it? That the reseller would not see that was a kind of risky product to sell, or as you say, they know the risk and go ahead with it anyway. Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the other investigation that you carried out, Antoine. tool theft and, the number of tradespeople who are falling victim to this crime. And the victim that you spoke to, I know his name's Steve. Tell us a bit more about him.
So Steve's a multi-trade. That means he can pretty much do everything. Now, he was using a hired van. He'd gone out with some friends. He parked it up like most people would. And some thieves stole £15,000 worth of goods from that van. And because it was in a hired van, it meant that he didn't have any insurance. Now, he's one of many people that have been victims of tool theft, but the fact that he felt like he literally had his livelihood taken from him, his means of looking after his children, his means of essentially being a man in his eyes, pushed him to the edge where he sadly attempted to take his own life. And he spoke to me about that process and also what saved him.
So within 5 minutes, you're gone. Everything you've worked for, gone. So you feel violated. I sort of felt to myself, that's it. I'm worthless. I've got no use to no one. I've got no work. Well, I've got work, but I've got no tools to do the work. I can't provide for my family and my kids. Could get any lower, I would have been underneath the tarmac I was walking on.
You were at the lowest point of your life, probably seconds away from taking your life. What stopped you?
A text message that came through my phone from my 2-year-old son that just button bashed randomly. It didn't make no sense, but I knew that was him, and that was my wake-up call to say, sort of like, what are you doing?
And Geraint, as you know, often when you start an investigation, you don't have all the answers. You don't know where it's going to take you. And when I heard about Steve's story, I was surprised. I thought it's just a simple crime case. People losing tools and the cost of that, the impact on their businesses. But the more I spoke to these tradespeople, the more they talked to me about the mental health, the anxiety, the constant fears they're having. And then also people like Steve are being pushed to the edge, but thankfully tradespeople come together to support each other.
Let's talk about the merchandise, if I can put it like that. The tools that are being stolen, as you touched on there, Antoine, are really valuable bits of kit, aren't they? So that's one obvious reason why they're being targeted. Why else do you think that this crime is growing in terms of its prevalence?
I think all of our viewers probably have been on the street and seen a tradesperson's van parked up outside their house, parked up on a job. They're easy to spot because they literally have to advertise what they do. Yeah. So what I notice and what the tradespeople talk about is, what the criminals do, they literally drive around. They see a van on one street, see another van on another street, and from the documents you can see just how quickly they operate. They jump out, they drill the locks, they grab what they want, and they get back into the car, whether it's at night or whether it's during the day. That's how quickly they can do these kind of crimes. And then they go to the boot sales and sell them up as quick as they can. So it's not even about getting the most expensive piece of equipment, it's the quantity they want to sell on, again, in a lot of places.
One of the interesting things about your the work you've done on this, Antoine, I thought, was just the way you went from one end of it where the crime was committed to the other end of it where we saw the goods being sold and the markets for them, and they are cart boot sales, aren't they?
Yeah, literally.
Tell us about that.
Every Sunday now. I haven't been to a car boot sale for a long time, so it was waking up at like 5 o'clock in the morning for a series of weekends, and then eventually the Met were like, actually, we're going to do a raid, come with us. So we went to Willow Farm in Essex. So the Met get there, for a good 5-10 minutes we're just walking around. The Met were in their full uniform, so everybody's basically run away. But it shows that boot sales are full of good people as well, because they got tip-offs where people literally said to them, they whispered to them, saying, look, that car there, this van, this person, they're definitely selling something. You just need to knock on the doors and get them to open up. And that's basically what happened. I literally spoke to somebody who told me himself.
There's one gang, they'll steal people tools and sell them here. There's another gang, they go to main shops, M&S and all these big markets, they bring the stuff over and they sell it for pennies. For example, car next to me is locked up right now because they were selling everything. As soon as they saw police, they just disappeared.
And we see a bit later on, don't we, Antoine? We talk about how this is blatant in the introduction, but we see a bit later on, don't we? Piles and piles of these stolen goods.
Yeah, it was when we were at the Willow Farm, it was literally hiding in vans. What you sell, I'm selling rugs, I'm selling bikes, and all the tools flow out. But the Met are there. So they literally said to me, like, look, some people would have got away today. So I was like, okay, well, I've gone with the police, let me go by myself. And I went to Hounslow. We've got right of reply from Hounslow where they literally said that, look, we don't allow the sale of stolen goods. But when I walked around, there were tools everywhere. £10 being sold, doing deals. They wanted to get rid of these tools as quick as possible. Now, they could have been legitimate tools, I don't know. But at the same point, the sheer quantity makes questions to be asked. The nature of these boot sales, it's not just stolen tools. I saw an iMac being sold for £150, like a brand new one. And usually when it comes to boot sales, you walk in, there's a sign that says only second-hand goods. I saw things that weren't second-hand. No power tools. I saw power tools. So they're very unregulated, and that's why I put that investigation to the government. I said, look, it's quite a simple thing to do. If you put some regulation, then they wouldn't be allowed to sell all these stolen goods.
I mean, well, which brings us to the obvious question, Antoine. What did the government tell you about what they are going to do to try and stop this trade?
Well, during the week we aired it on TV, an MP from Portsmouth put it to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister acknowledged the hard work that tradespeople have. And they kind of went back to a previous policy where they're going to put £1.2 billion into policing. But that specifically isn't for boot sales, it's not specifically for power tools, it's not specifically for shoplifting. So in terms of what they're actually doing right now, not much. You could argue the policing will do something, like more police is obviously a good thing, but it's not as simple as that, I don't think. As you see with the shoplifting investigation, there's a task force for shoplifting now. It looks at the links between places, not just in one boot sale. Power tools needs that. If someone steals some power tools in Leeds, they could quite easily go to Essex and sell them, and the Leeds police will be none the wiser, and Essex police won't know where it's come from. So it needs more, and I think the government probably aren't doing enough right now.
And in terms of what tradespeople can do to help themselves, what struck me from your film was the importance of just identifying your kit as yours, whether or not however you do that, which I'm sure you'll explain. Yeah. But in the first instance, it gives the police the evidence to say, when they recover those items, that they have been nicked. Yeah. And it gives them a chance of returning them to the rightful owner.
100% you need that because, and again, this was a learning experience for me. Let's say when we went to the raid, they've got the suspected stolen goods. If they can't prove that the goods are stolen, they literally have to give it back to the person they've arrested because there's no evidence there. So unless you mark your tools to know that these are mine, whoever's got them, they just use that invisible light to show that, then you're not going to get them back. And then it also means that the person who's stolen doesn't get convicted. So it's a whole cycle. So I thought it was important in the documentary to include that part, is where actually if you're proactive yourself, even if you think the government's not doing enough, even if you think the police aren't doing enough, you need to do the bare minimum yourself, which is marking your tools. So hopefully they can be returned to you if they are stolen.
It's great work you've done, Antoine. Really interesting hearing you talk about it. Thank you very much indeed. And you can see Antoine's reports if you follow the links in the show notes, and you can watch or listen to all episodes of What You Need to Know on ITVX, YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Until the next time, thanks for joining us.